All right. Good afternoon. This is the regularly scheduled meeting of the Public Safety, Civil Rights, Emergency Management Committee meeting. My name is Blong Yang. I'm the chair of this committee, and today is September 13, 2017. Joining me today are Council Members Quincy, Gordon, Palmisano, and Reich, and Council President Johnson will be joining us shortly. We are a quorum of this committee and conduct the regular business of this committee. Today we have 6 consent items and a discussion item, and I will go through the consent items and then we'll go through the discussion items as well. The first item on the consent agenda is an agreement and an amendment with the Regents of the University of California for research analysis of police data policy. The second item is a grant from the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, Office of Traffic Safety for a DWI enforcement officer. Third item is a grant from the State of Minnesota 4th Judicial District Court for police liaison and DWI defendant monitoring services. Fourth item is a grant from the Minnesota Department of Public Safety, Office of Traffic Safety for traffic safety enforcement support. Fifth item is the Minnesota Board of Firefighter Training and Education Training Reimbursement Redistribution. And the sixth item is the 2017 Construction Workforce Goals. And the seventh item is a discussion item, and that's the second quarter 2017 report from Contract Compliance Division. And I'm gonna pull item number 6 off just for a couple of comments, but if we can just dispose of the first 5 consent items, that would be my preference. And so I will move items number 1 through 5 for approval. Anyone want to pull anything off for discussion? All right, Council President Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just curious about item 4. What we think we might be able to. Looks like there's nobody from the police department.
Ms. Glock is here.
Oh, okay. It looks like we're sharing the almost $300,000 with 6-7 agencies. What do we think we might get out of this?
Welcome, Ms. Glock.
Council Chair, Council members, what is your question?
On item 4, it looks like we're getting a grant from the Department of Public Safety for traffic enforcement toward zero deaths, but we have to share it with 7 other agencies. What do we typically? Is this this must be an ongoing program?
This is an ongoing program, one that we've been getting. The state has put this together now for several years under the Towards Zero Death. It's for pedestrian safety, drunk driving. It's several different driving enforcement programs together. And yes, we do serve as a fiscal agent for these additional agencies.
Okay.
And we also work on the scheduling, for these specific details the state sets out.
Oh, okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding items number 1 through 5? All right, seeing none. All those in approval, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. With item number 6, Mr. Skibbie, can you just come up for a couple of questions? So in the past, with regards to these numbers, the minority participation numbers don't change with this new policy, but the female numbers change from 6% to 20%. And, I understand, there's something to be said about, making something policy, and there's another part of it, which is how do we get there from the 6 to 20%? Because that's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for the time, for the question. And I certainly recognize that you can set a goal and you have to have something behind it for it to mean anything. One of the things that I had prepared to discuss today was some background about the goals that have been in place when they were issued, and the goals that are currently in place have been in place since 2012. The goals were really at that time left the same for females, so that the goal in 2012 I think reflected a previous goal set by the department in 2007 at 6%, And so the increase at that time was an increase from an 11% minority participation goal to 32%. And we did see a big change. I think the numbers today, as I'm about to present, are some of the best that we've ever seen since we've been tracking. And I think that the numbers today, what the Department of Human Rights recognized in its report and its recommendation to increase the goals, was that the goals matter, what we're working towards matters, and the success that we've had increasing minority participation is a reflection and part of the goals, and having a direction that we want the industry to move towards. And that's why we are in part recommending the 20% female workforce goal today.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Councilmember Gordon?
So is this in line with the new goals from the state?
That's correct. In July, thank you, Mr. Chair, Councilmember Gordon. That's correct. In July, the Minnesota Department of Human Rights, as a follow-up to some meetings that have been held in which the city participated first half of this year, later portion of last year, issued a report, and in that report, it had the minority participation goal effectively staying the same at 32%, and then the participation goal for females in the 2-county area going from 6% to 20%.
Thanks, I appreciate that. I think that's good information to have. I think that's why we got to the 32% and why we adopted that too, is because we felt like if the state was reaching for that, we could as well. And I know that it's helped us. We haven't actually got there yet, but I think it's helped motivate us and the region and the state to work harder and to come up with new strategies and new methods to get there, which I think is maybe one of the questions the chair has. What's our action plan? We are really going to need to have some ideas and some strategies probably to push us faster to accomplish our goals, because we want them to be not just aspirational targets to dream about, but actually numbers to hit in our lifetimes.
Absolutely. And Mr. Chair, thank you, Councilmember Gordon. I'll just say this is not the only thing we're doing. We're continuing to take additional action and considering new ordinances and what that language will look like to try and get us towards the numbers that we are holding out as goals.
And Councilmember Gordon, thank you for clarifying my intent in asking the questions. It wasn't that I was against that. It was more so just kind of clarifying, just because I think a lot of times, we set goals, but it's hard to get there, or we don't have a plan how to get there. But I appreciate your answer, Mr. Skibbie. And so I will move item number 6, which was a consent item for approval. Any discussion? All right, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. And we have led you to item number 7, which is the discussion of the second quarter 2017 report on contract compliance. And, if you can take, about 5 to 10 minutes on that, that'd be great. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. May I have a moment to pull it up?
Absolutely. Take your time.
Thanks. So again, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the council. For those of you that don't know, I'm maybe a little late for introductions, a little out of order, but my name is Sean Skibbie. I'm the director here at the Contract Compliance Division in the Department of Civil Rights. As you may know, the Contract Compliance Division monitors City of Minneapolis projects and contracts to ensure that minority, women, and low-income business owners and workers have access to contracting and employment opportunities, and that workers are paid correctly in accordance with the law. I'm here today to present the division's quarterly report for the second quarter of 2017, running from April 1st to June 30th of this year. So for the first slide here, you see the division's Q2 outcomes for the city's small and underutilized business program, which of course is the city's primary minority and women business inclusion mechanism. Through the second quarter of this year, the division has reviewed 91 contracts for SUBP program goal setting. Goals have been set on 48 of these contracts. And through through the second quarter, the division has completed 28 pre-award reviews. So this is prior to the award of the contract to engage and work with the city. Of these 28, 10 committed to meeting the SUBP participation goal, and 18 bidders sought award of the contract through a demonstration of good faith efforts. The division accepted good faith efforts submissions from 11 of the 18 contractors and rejected 7. 2 of the rejected firms requested reconsideration meetings, and the division's determinations were upheld in both of those cases. The division also processes applications for certification in its role as a certifying member agency with the Minnesota Unified Certification Program. Through the second quarter of 2017, the division has certified 12 new firms for the year. There are now a total of 560 certified firms in the city's marketplace, including 128 based within city limits. On the next slide, here you see a comparison of the participation that the division has reported on closed projects since 2014. Through the second quarter, there was 7% participation for MBE firms and 6% participation for WBE certified firms. These numbers come from the 12 contracts that had SUBP goals that the division closed during the second quarter. Those contracts total about $81 million. So doing the math, there's about $5.7 million that went to MBE firms and 4.7 that went to WBEs. So to go back to workforce inclusion, I know we talked about that a little bit, but moving forward from the SUBP program, I want to shift gears and talk about workforce inclusion again. As you all probably know, and we already talked about, the city follows the goals for at least through Q2 of 32% and 6%, 32% minority participation, 6% female. Division monitors workforce participation on these projects based off of data submitted in certified payroll reports, which are of course required for prevailing wages. The division closed 14 projects where the workforce goals applied through the second quarter, with a total of about 540,700 hours worked. About 125,000 hours were worked by minorities, and this constitutes 23% minority participation, which again does reflect an increase both from last year and what we've seen for just since we've been keeping data on the topic. And again, employees identified as female worked about 27,000 hours, and this constitutes 5% female participation. And in addition to the city's small and underutilized business and workforce programs, the division also monitors compliance with affirmative action Section 3 prevailing wage requirements. Through the second quarter of 2017, the city has approved affirmative action plans for 77 contractors, received 1 Section 3 resident application, and recovered $1,308 in underpaid prevailing wages. And that concludes the presentation of data for this report. There is more data in the linked report. If you have more questions, I'm happy to entertain those. Otherwise, very quickly, I would like to say thank you, Mr. Chair, and to the City Council for your continued support of the Contract Compliance Division, the programs we monitor, and the work that we do.
Thank you. Any questions, comments? All right, seeing none, I will move to receive and file this Contract Compliance Division second quarter of 2017 reports. Any discussion on that? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Skibbie.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And with that, we have disposed of all the business before this committee, and so we will adjourn this meeting. Thank you.